So at our last council meeting on the 9th of February, during the debate on the Racism Not Welcome campaign, two councillors, when speaking in the debate after 9:30pm, used words that I would term expletives. There's no doubt that these words were heard by all in the public gallery and those who were listening to the live stream. They were gendered and disgusting. Following last council meeting, I received a complaint about the councillors' use of expletives, and I understand that the General Manager had also received a complaint. In the interests of civil debate at a meeting that is open to the public, it's my request that in future, councillors refrain from using language that we all commonly regard as inappropriate, either in this context of repeating the words of others or, of course, in any other context where they may well be regarded as an act of disorder. And now, everyone, I'd like to declare the meeting opened. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Ukraine.
Russia's aggression.
8 requests to address Council tonight. Mr Royden Ing.
Great to see the committees are back, especially Youth Committee and COUD Committee. The Homelessness Committee, such committees. Each committee membership. Each committee for committees overall. Each committee of the committee, that probably leaves them scratching their heads about what the committee actually does. Community members have sacrificed.
Thank you, Mr Ing. Our next speaker is Sheikh Shadi Al-Suleiman. He's not here. Our next speaker then is Mr Mohammed Al-Zubi.
Prayer or salat or salah, they're all the same, and it is the second pillar of the 5 pillars of Islam. It is obligatory for every Muslim to pray 5 times in the day and night. Each salah has a certain time. You cannot pray before that time or after that time. Now, any delay in purpose intentionally for any salah is a serious sin.
I might just say to everybody that Mr Al-Zubi was addressing the notice of rescission that's on the agenda for tonight to rescind the motion to circulate the draft code of meeting practice, and specifically he was talking about an amendment to the draft code, a suggestion, a proposal that a clause be inserted to allow a 15-minute break for prayer. Next up, Mr Rashid. Is Mohammed Rashid here tonight? Thank you.
We are living in a society, that society is multicultural, multilingual and multi-faith, inclusive.
Next I have Ms Mahishi Bandara.
Devout Buddhist, tolerance, acceptance and cooperation. We stand in solidarity with the Muslim community who has been specifically targeted with this motion. Power for one is power for all. Diverse faith, prayer time is not a favor. It is not a privilege. It is a birthright.
Reverend Now.
I'm a minister of the Uniting Church. Even atheists ask for prayer.
Mr Ubadar Mahmood.
I am Ubaidur Mahmood, President of Sri Lanka Muslim Association, ALMA. Cultural and religious diversity, inclusiveness. In this particular instance, it is related to Muslims who need to pray at specified times. To have a break for Muslim prayer, it is compulsory on Muslims to pray within the specified times. For the next 18 years, Ramadan breaking fast time and evening prayer time will fall within the council meeting time. Inclusive. Multicultural society, multiculturalism.
Councillor Garron.
Mr Mahmood, are you aware that Imtiaz Ahmed, the assistant imam at Australia's largest mosque at Marsden Park, is on the record as saying that Islam allows flexibility with prayer, and that it's quite appropriate that prayer could be combined together at some other stage during the day. That's his public statement. How do you see that public statement made by the assistant imam at Australia's largest mosque as against what you just said.
So the same Telegraph or whoever, they could have asked the authority on Islamic affairs in Australia is Mufti. They could have asked the Mufti, rather than a person who is in somewhere we don't know even who he is. He may be an imam. Everybody can call themselves as an imam. And again, there are a variety of...
I just want the answer, the question. If you can't answer the question...
No, I can answer.
I'm not... I can't get access to the Mufti at the moment.
Yes.
Just
that
how do you feel that the assistant imam at Australia's largest mosque feels that Islamic people, Muslim people, can combine their prayers?
They are
right, or is he wrong?
Yeah, he is wrong. He is absolutely wrong. Maybe he is from different sect, but the majority sect, the Sunni sect, they can't pray. They can't metaphorically, if a person ask, the prayer is one-time prayer and the whole world is in another hand, which one you choose, they will say the prayer, a Muslim. That's important, to pray on time.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Garrard. Thank you. Ms. Shamila Fawzon, please.
I'm here on behalf of the Sydney Alliance. As Maheshi noted, that the Sydney Alliance is an organisation that constitutes 40 not-for-profit, religious and union organisations. I'm a Christian. 25% of Cumberland is of the Muslim faith. We did take time for prayer to pray for a Christian prayer, but we will not take time for prayer for any other faith. And I really want people to really think about that and really think about the message that you send to 25% of your constituency, that you are not willing to take time for them to pray and for them to honour their religion and to honour their culture. A diverse community.
Councillor Sarkis.
Ms. Falzon, you said in your speech that we take time for Christian prayer but no other. Where did you get that from? I'm just curious.
Well, it's interesting because we started this meeting with a Christian prayer.
Right.
So we took time to, before we started this meeting, for a Christian prayer.
I appreciate that. This is your first meeting to council?
So I'm assuming you've had other prayers.
So we've had Muhammad Azabi himself give us prayer. It was an Islamic prayer. We've had Hindu prayers. We've had prayers from all faiths at that lectern, not just the Christian faith. So it's a matter of who the mayor or the committee says who's next, and everybody gets a turn to come up here. It's not just one faith. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There was a question, did you miss it? I can say it again. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Sarkis. Do you have any further questions?
No, that was it.
Thank you.
It was to clarify your comments.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Councillor Sarkis's question and say that this side of the chamber, and I will get to my question, this side of the chamber voted to have those prayers at the beginning, and we voted for those prayers because we believe in inclusiveness and embracing the diversity and the diverse community, as we can see today in the gallery. And can I remind Councillor Sarkis that...
Question, please,
yes,
Councillor Hamid.
I'll get to it, Councillor Lake. That under the previous mayor, we didn't have a single Muslim prayer at the beginning. So yes, really. And in fact, I won't ask.
Councillor Hamid, we'll leave these comments to the debate. If you have a question, can you please ask Ms. Falzon? Thank you, Councillor. The Multicultural Communities Council of New South Wales, racism not welcome, racism not welcome. Multicultural Communities, 2217, the formation of council committees.
I support in principle the establishment of these committees, but as I've said in the past, I disagree with the way it's being done. I might add, the terms of reference on all these committees are very weak. I'm going to use one example. Council has a youth development team, and they completed a consultation with the community that covered 167 young people. Now, further to that, the youth development team partnered with other stakeholders in the city, for instance, the Auburn Youth Centre and other youth services. They established, for instance, an expo, employment expo last December. Council also advertised 3 school-based traineeships positions for local high school students. Now, that is rather significant because, as it was stated earlier, there's a high degree of unemployment amongst young people. But the point is this: it's well recognised and has been serviced by this community, by this council's workforce up to date. Council has continued an ongoing program including overseeing the Cumberland youth sector, youth employment, initiating also other issues through health and wellbeing programs. The 2022 Youth for Youth volunteers have been recruited and onboarding has commenced. So when you go to all the youth that have been participating in the various programs that are already run by this organisation very well, 94%, matter of fact, nearly 95% of participants agreed that they would recommend these services to someone else. The terms of reference are very weak. The terms of reference consider no objectives, they consider no aims. These committees, when established, will have no clear directions at all. Yes, they will be committees that will service representation from the Labor Party. Yes, they will be committees that will cost a packet to run. And yes, they will be committees that, outside of what the council is already achieving through the workforce that we have here, doing a magnificent job in these areas, they will add very little value.
Committee, an Indigenous representative committee, an Indigenous representative with an Indigenous background.
We voted on this last meeting. Why has it come back? Because no, we voted on the list. So is it now coming back because of the terms of reference?
Exactly. We're now adopting terms of reference to set up the committees and invite community members onto them. Committee.
I probably would have liked the terms of reference for us to have taken a bit more time and to have more meaningful objectives. Like, again, it comes back to that whole specific, measurable, like what are we actually going to achieve, the framework of tighter objectives.
These committees, the committees of...
A couple of years back when these committees were abolished, I was one of the councillors that voted against these committees or voted for the abolishment of these committees. Do I regret it? No, I don't. My focus has been, as a councillor, and has always been to get back the basics and get the basics right. Our roads, our footpaths, our infrastructure, our parks and gardens, getting these core essentials that our communities need and use every day, right, is important. Voting against these committees 2 years ago was to ensure that we focused our monies and our energies into getting these core basic duties that we as councillors ought to be doing. I appreciate all these committees, I do. But there is a cost to them, whether you accept it or not. But behind the scenes, it still takes council officers time, money and resources to organise paperwork, to organise agendas, to organise minutes, to organise meetings, to organise places of meeting. All of this comes at a cost. It doesn't come for nothing. We pay for it. Now, I'm not against committees per se, but what I am for is getting our priorities right, and that is getting our core essential services on track. Focus our monies, focus our energies, focus what we can into getting our footpaths in a fashion. We still have some 80 streets just in the Greystanes ward that don't have footpaths. There's no footpath at all. Mums and dads and kids are walking on the street. It's because I'm for getting my priorities right for the local community, and that is getting our infrastructure to a state that is acceptable.
These committees, I believe these committees will add value. Committees
a motion in relation to the terms of reference for the new council committees. All those in favour of those terms of reference, please say aye. You can raise your hands. We've got Councillor Cummings, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Sain, Councillor Hammer, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Saha, Councillor Wang, Councillor Lake, Councillor Garrett, Councillor Christou, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Zay, Councillor RAHME. All those against the terms of reference, Councillor Sarkis. I'll declare that carried. The next matter, 2222, the notice of motion in relation to the reinstatement of cultural events.
To ensure that cultural events are to be celebrated. Lunar New Year, Australia Day, fireworks, Lunar New Year, and fantastic cultural events. I'm tonight seeking council support to endorse the community cultural events with the addition of Nowruz and Easter celebrations. Nowruz is celebrated in Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, India, Iran, Iraq, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. Many thousands of residents in Cumberland have origins that are tied to the aforementioned countries. A diverse community.
Certain councillors in this chamber fueled a lot of derogatory comments and lies about me that I'm a racist. Whether you're Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Chinese, Australian, whether you're into flowers, there's representation in this motion.
The location that was designed for the Lunar New Year was culturally inappropriate as well because it was very close to the Royal Court Cemetery. Postpone the Lunar New Year celebration later on down the track, and we'll celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival instead in mid-September when the COVID situation got better.
But I think community events are absolutely fabulous. Diversity, our diversity, this uniqueness.
Australia Day, Christmas celebrations, Ramadan, Lunar New Year, Diwali, Reconciliation Week, the GRANVILLE Train Disaster Memorial and the Cherry Blossom Festival.
It's all right, he's reserving his
I'm reserving my right. I can't believe you're prepared to play games with this.
Thank you.
The community is watching.
Please don't yell. Thank you.
Me?
All of you. Thank you, Councillor RAHME.
Maybe you should tell that to Councillor Coleman last week, but anyway.
Councillor RAHME, we're in this meeting now. Thank you.
Problem. Oh, so we just wiped the past. Okay.
Thank you.
Very, very Christian-like. Anyway.
Through you, Mayor. Councillor RAHME, I read this motion. I read this motion on the basis that, one, Council acknowledges the following events are included in Council's program, subject to Council's budgetary position. What I interpret that to mean, and what I believe that to mean from reading that, is that should Council's budgetary position start to degrade over that time, then those events would then naturally be looked at to determine if they proceed or not.
Diverse, multicultural community, multiculturalism, social cohesion, this inclusive.
Has any councillor spoken against this?
No, Councillor Cummings.
Sorry, are we talking the original motion or the new accepted motion?
Both.
No.
Then what are we doing wasting this much time?
So why making so big fuss of it?
Include Bangladesh Independence Day.
That was not part of this.
Thank you, Councillor Garrah.
You're interjecting now, you both are, and Garrah just interjected with a racist comment, so...
Councillor Hamid, your amendment.
I would like to apologise to our community in the chamber that have had to witness 40 minutes of absolute dribble. Now, a simple motion was put up, which I was hoping will get solidarity from all council for our community. It was to support events. It was even costed for. Yet some on the other side, we even had a costing. We identified that the new events can be accommodated through the communications budget. Yet some on the...
Councillor CHRISTOU, I'm sorry, you have to resume your seat. What's your point of order, Councillor?
Point of order. Councillor, you can't call a point of order during my reply.
I'm sorry, you can, and you have to refer to the clause. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Councillor CHRISTOU has actually made a comments about that all these events has been costed.
No, I said the new events.
That's
That's
not a point of order. That's debate. I'll resume. Thank you. I'll resume, Councillor CHRISTOU.
Now, look, something that should have been a simple matter became to an absolute political dog's breakfast. Very unnecessary. Our community don't deserve 40 minutes of this garbage. It should have been a 5-minute motion at best.
Now I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion that's before us, please raise your hands. Councillor Cummings, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Hussain, Councillor Hamid, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Saha, Councillor Wang, Councillor Lake, Councillor Garrard, CHRISTOU Hughes, Zeta, RAHME and Sarkis. Thank you. It is unanimous. Rescission matter 22.2, the draft code of meeting practice.
I'll state from the outset, I'm not against prayer. No one is here to discriminate against a particular group for prayer. On this side of the chamber, we suggested that instead of prayer, we add health break, because it encompasses everybody. The code of meeting practice that was brought to chamber did not identify a specific religion. However, some councillors on the other side wanted to get up and point out to a specific religion and turn this into a political dog whistling fight. This has now become a political stunt because we can quite easily accommodate what needs to be done through health breaks. This is why I am opposed to this specific wording as it is, because I believe this council is leaving itself open to some form of racist and harassment debate and possibly a lawsuit, because some councillors have turned this into a specific religion event, which is not, because that's not what it's stated for here.
I do not even know why the draft code of meeting practice even approaches the issue of having a prayer break. No other council in Australia does it. While I would like Cumberland Council to be the leader in most things, I don't see how it should be cutting new ground in an area which is not going to add value to what ratepayers put us here for. The community vote us in to look after the affairs of this organisation, the affairs of the boundaries that cover our LGA. They pay their money, they pay rates, and we look after their money and we provide services for them. And that's what our decisions in this chamber are for. If they don't vote us into this chamber so that we can, at the drop of a hat, stop our business and go out and have another pray after we've already had one before we started. They vote us into this place to ensure that we provide the best facilities, the best services at the lowest rate. That's what we're here for, to make efficiencies, to ensure that we do things better, to get the best result, to drive their dollar further. That's our job. And by hell, this council has a lot of problems it's got to look after on behalf of the residents. And those residents that are watching tonight are probably falling off their chair in amusement, knowing that we're debating this issue given the massive number of problems that this organisation has and the enormous responsibilities that we have to ensure that we stay on top of those issues. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to hear. Not to go off in some loony left agenda that's going to set us in another direction and not deal with the issues that we should be dealing with. So, as I say at the beginning, at the outset, I wonder why we're even having this debate in the first instance. If we want to pursue this, we go out on exhibition and we'll see then how well it's accepted. We can have any number of people stand to the microphone and make comment, and I do acknowledge there's a large Muslim population in this city. And I also know there's 75% of the people aren't. So what we really need to do is get on with the business of running local government in Cumberland City.
I am really surprised that we're still debating it. The OLC sitting across us today with a straight face tell us that we need to not do this because the residents have asked us to work really, really hard and you know, make sure that we're using our resources properly. Can I say that this debate has taken over 2-3 hours of our time in this chamber, not including all the time that we've spent outside of the chamber trying to work out what exactly UMOB are trying to do here. Those people may or may not want to practice their faith or need to practice their faith at a certain point in the day. And can I touch on the fact that and echo the sentiments of the gallery tonight about the Muslim faith. And let me say that I don't support the notion that this is a Muslim. And of course, Councillor CHRISTOU, I mean, you're shaking your head there, Councillor Garrard. Councillor CHRISTOU 10 seconds ago said that this isn't a Muslim issue, and it's not a Muslim amendment, I should say. This is about not about particularly the Muslim faith.
Because there was an implication that his motive was directed at the Muslim community, which it wasn't. Through you, Madam Mayor,
I overrule the point of order. Thank you.
I call dissent.
Thank you, Councillor RAHME. You can speak to your dissent motion.
So we've had a councillor here who has a habit of trying to turn this. Now, I've made it clear in prior meetings that I actually didn't vote against the Code of Meeting Conduct, as Councillor Kun can, and a lot of people, and everyone in the chamber, and everyone can go back to the recordings. I actually had no issue with the prayer break. I voted against it based on the unlimited time for public forum. But fact is fact. We have a councillor that has a habit of turning this into pulling the race and the religion card, and has now sat in the chamber and said that Councillor CHRISTOU, his motive is driven by or is targeted at a certain faith. And when you look at 15.11d, insults or makes personal reflections on or imputes improper motives to any other council official. What he's been accused of doing is an improper motive. That was never the motive, and he's just explained why it wasn't the motive. That's why I'm raising a point of dissent, because I feel that you haven't dealt with it adequately.
Your dissent motion says that the comments made by Councillor Hamed imply improper motives on Councillor CHRISTOU. I don't agree that the implication can be characterised as an improper motive. What I would say is that Councillor CHRISTOU debates Councillor Hamed as to the reasons why he takes the view that he does in relation to the prayer clause, and he will have an opportunity to respond to Councillor Hamed's comments in his right of reply. We will now vote on the dissent motion. All those in favour of Councillor RAHME's dissent motion, please raise their hand. Councillor Cummings, Councillor Sarkis, Councillor RAHME, Councillor Zeta, Councillor Hughes, Councillor CHRISTOU and Councillor Garrard. All those against the dissent motion, Councillor Faruqi, Elmore, Hussain, Hamed, Coleman, Sahar, Huang and Lake. The dissent motion is lost. Electors
elect councillors onto council to represent them. It should not conflict with their faith. If we're asking for 15 minutes to be able to fulfil those obligations, as we heard from the Muslim community today and others, that there are obligatory times that people need to pray. Now, as for the argument that we heard from the OLC about some sheikh that nobody's heard of, with all respect, mainstream Muslims, I can tell you because I actually know them, one or two, mainstream Muslims disagree. And as we heard, if you were listening to the chamber today, that mainstream Muslims need to pray at a particular time of the day. A prayer time is not a favour, and that prayer time is a right.
Councillor Faruqi.
So calling it a health break. We understand what health break means. So calling it a prayer break actually serves the purpose. You can have the health break, you can have the rest and stretch, and you can pray if you need to. But calling it a health break doesn't serve the purpose. So calling it a prayer break serves both the purpose, but calling it health break doesn't serve the purpose, because you have already heard from the people in the public forum that prayer is connected to a time, specific time. I hope you'll respect what I'm saying. That calling it health break doesn't serve the purpose, because the clause is for prayer, and health break doesn't make any sense. Is it a rocket science to understand it? I don't think so. And I have a letter from Australian National Imam Council, which is the peak body of all the imams in Australia. And it mentions about the importance of prayer in a particular time. It's very interesting that Councillor Garrard asked the question about the imam, imtiaz, but didn't even consult with the local mosque and all the large religious organizations we have in Cumberland councils. An act of racism that happened to me, that was the last one, by the way. I have many examples. So the last one happened in Berala station when someone said that how dare you run for the election and ask for vote wearing hijab. I'm a Muslim. That scared him. I'm a Muslim. And he was so afraid of a Muslim going to the council as if, the world will come to an end. If you have fear about Muslims, which is called Islamophobia, if you have the Islamophobia, which you shouldn't have, you should enroll for a program that is our fabulous Turkish community is organizing called Islamophobia.
Open and inclusive council, diversity, diverse community.
Just confirming that the rescission we're voting on doesn't only rescind the prayer break, as we've discussed for 2 hours now, but also aims to rescind certain other items like unlimited speakers in the public gallery and so on and so on. Is that correct?
The rescission motion will rescind the resolution to approve a draft code of meeting practice to go out for public exhibition.
The main purpose for me voting against this rescission, because I want to remove the ammunition for people to turn this into a racism war, or what they usually do, is on the premise of unlimited speakers and speaking time in public gallery. It's not on the prayer time. I don't know why the word Islam is getting thrown around a lot, because the last time I checked, the code of meeting practice doesn't single out a particular religion.
I move that the rescission motion be put.
You can make your right of reply, Councillor CHRISTOU.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, members of the public, I'll just like to I'll emphasise this point. This is our second meeting. I've done a calculation, and as a council we have now spent 7 hours of debate. 7 hours of debate collectively so far in these 2 meetings, discussing issues which primarily achieve no outcome for our community other than outcomes for ourselves, except for the motion to endorse the cultural events. Shame on this council. I also made my position very clear that we thought an appropriate wording to be inclusive of everybody would be health break. Nowhere in the Code of Meeting Practice did it identify a particular religion. Yet Councillor Garrard got unfairly ostracised for pointing out that it was members of the other side that first brought in a particular religion that they had purported this will affect. And he was only quoting from segments of the Daily Telegraph when he made his comments about the Imam. Now, I feel this motion, as is at the moment, is discriminatory to other councillors, because we're not here to discriminate against anybody. The ALP across me is so afraid of the hole they dug themselves with this motion and the potential for a discrimination suit to be put on this council if another councillor gets rejected on a request, that they are now trying to weasel out of it in the background. My understanding is there was a Daily Telegraph vote taken. Now, when I looked at that vote, roughly over 300 people participated in that vote, and 86% of them did not want this to go ahead. Sky News thought this is so funny and absurd that we're the only council in Australia to propose such a resolution and not accept a health break that they had me on talking about it. I don't see why we cannot accept a health break where it accommodates everyone. It accommodates prayer, it accommodates spiritual well-being, and it accommodates councillors being sick.
All those in favour of the rescission motion, please raise their hand. Yes, that's correct. Please raise your hand. Councillor Garrett, Councillor CHRISTOU, Councillor Hughes, Councillor RAHME, Councillor Sarkis. And all those against the rescission motion, please raise their hand. Councillor Zeta, Councillor Cummings, Faruqi, Elmore, Hussain, Ahmed Coleman, Saha, Huang and Lake. I declare the rescission motion lost. Items by exception. 2214, notice of motion racism not welcome.
The overwhelming feedback I have received from local residents and the broader community is that they overwhelmingly do not want these signs erected in their neighbourhoods. There is a very real fear that these signs, if erected, will stigmatise a community, the streets in which they have been erected in, and create the perception that the street is troublesome and has a racism overtone to it. Additionally, residents are terrified it will devalue their property price. While those opposite me like to claim this initiative is supported by most councils, the realities are this. In the interview, in mid-February, I participated in an ABC radio interview where Addison Road CEO Rosanna Barbero was also a guest. In the interview, it was revealed that out of 537 local government areas across Australia, roughly only 30 councils to date have installed these signs. That is a percentage rate of 5.59%. Hardly an overwhelming ringing endorsement those opposite us would like us to believe. I oppose the installation of these signs. They will do nothing of whatsoever to combat racism, other than virtual signal to particular left woke focus groups. Our council financial position is dire, with our infrastructure program now on hold for a second year running. We have electric plant maintenance equipment that is roughly $2 million in arrears, which requires servicing and upgrades. To install these proposed signs is more than the cost of just making them. Many hundreds of staff hours will be involved. With the very limited funds this council has available to our community, our community deserves footpaths, upgrades, road upgrades and green space improvements, as well as maintaining our libraries, pools and sporting recreation fields. This is how we assist our community, not installing woke tokenistic signs on a road to nowhere that do nothing of whatsoever to improve life of our local community. I suggest that if the racism not welcome signs are successfully voted on tonight, those councillors voting for them should have them installed in their street first.
Now, the amendment that was put at the last meeting was to pursue the issue of the signs regarding racism and also to promote the idea that we're also against discrimination. And I think that's a very fair position to put ourselves in. And by virtue of that, and for what it's worth, I feel that this chamber should have supported that statement. It didn't, and hence we have the rescission motion here tonight.
And just to provide some clarity as to why I'll vote in favour of this rescission, it's because we gave the opportunity to actually make this concept broader, and the more I think about this, the more I can't get myself to vote for something that doesn't look broader and beyond racism. Racism and discrimination, political grandstanding and virtue signalling. If we're really serious about people being marginalised based on being different, then the word discrimination needs to be in there. Because racism, and the one major example that we've been given, the fairly crude example that Councillor RAHME gave, rightly so, last meeting, around the name she was called, the example that Councillor Faruqi gave only today, the examples that I gave and the threats that I've received were all based on religious matters. So how can we have blinkers on and just say racism not welcome? Now, the feedback I got when I tried to speak to the other side was it doesn't have the ring to it. Well, sorry, I don't think we're in the business of creating catchy nursery rhymes. I'm actually going to reject that on principle, because if you're really serious about defending the marginalised, you would have included the words discrimination in there.
This is our third debate on this anti-racism motion. And I urge my colleagues to vote against the rescission and support the original motion.
It is segregating the community by only having racism not welcome.
There is a fact that I want to clarify tonight. And for the fact that it has been asked several times that the racism has increased in our council area or not, it is an acknowledgement from us, says that actually racism does exist in Cumberland Council. In fact, Madam Mayor, I can say that racism actually exists in this council chamber. I was subject of a racial comment in this council chamber. We hear from Councillor Hamad, we hear from Councillor and Deputy Mayor Huang, Tonight we hear from Councillor RAHME, and also we hear from Councillor Faruqi as well. We all shared our experiences about how we encounter racism in the community. And one of the main pillars for the Racism Not Welcome campaign is that we just need to acknowledge that it does exist. This campaign, Racism Not Welcome campaign, was developed by Inner West Multicultural Network. And just by adding a discrimination word, you are actually weakening the whole purpose of this campaign.
I am very concerned in regards to this whole campaign. We have no money for our infrastructure upgrades. Our works program is now going to be put on hold for the second year running. Yet our solution to help our community through all of this is to whack up about 40 racism not welcome signs on a road to nowhere. It just doesn't make sense to me. I want our residents to open their door and see their lawns mowed, the rubbish picked up. But no, let's spend 8 hours in the first two meetings debating issues that will satisfy a few of us that sit on the left woke agenda. Well, quite frankly, I'm not going to vote for it. You have the numbers for it, but you can answer to your community how you are doing nothing for them other than woke virtue signalling. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor CHRISTOU. That's it for this debate. Can I put the notice of rescission motion? All those in favour of the rescission of the Racism Not Welcome campaign, please raise your hand. Yeah, you are. Councillor Garrard, I'm sure you are. Councillor CHRISTOU, Councillor Hughes, Councillor RAHME and Councillor Sarkis. All those against the rescission of the campaign, Councillor Cummings, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Hossain, Hamid, Holman Saha, Huang, Lake and Zeta. The Racism Not Welcome campaign is about to commence. Thank you. And now we need to move into closed council.